Recognize that tune, and you know it's time for Diggin' with Seven and Tennessee Jeff. Join us for the next hour as we talk metal detecting and relic hunting. Join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. You're listening to Relics Radio on Spreaker. All right, it's Thursday night again, and it's time for Relics Radio. So glad that you could join us. I see Ohio Relic Hunter is in. I sure hope that you called Barb. She said that she had set her alarm to go off tonight so that she wouldn't come in late and miss the show. See, Dennis is in. Going to be a little bit different here tonight. The guest that I had lined up called in sick and wasn't able to make it, and I thought, well, that's okay. We've got by, me and Jeff, I think one show without a guest, and then about 4:30, Jeff called me, and he had a family situation there. His mother-in-law is terminally ill, and so he had some things to attend to there, but I've got the show all here by myself, and there's Larry Stevens in the chat. Me and Larry's got a little thing going since our last video, and the gold ring that, and Trenton Yonder's in, the gold ring that Jeff found, and we did research on that, and there's Dave Miller. Everybody's popping in here. But anyway, Larry Stevens has been on a quest to research Christian Beck, and he put in the chat here, Christian Beck contacted me, and he wants his ring back. I'll tell you what, I guarantee you if Christian Beck walks up to Jeff and asks for the ring, Jeff will give it to him, because he's a little bit leery about things like that. Jordan is in the house as well, and thank you, Dennis. Thoughts and prayers for Jeff and his family. I'm going to do things, as I said, a little bit different tonight, but I want to start out with something that I normally hold till the very last, and I don't know how many of these guys listen to our show, but I want to give all of these guys that are on Spreaker a plug. And if you like metal detecting and you want to get a little bit more information and listen to some good shows, well, listen to these right here. We have Beyond Sight and Sound. We also have Hardcore Metal Detecting. We've got All Metal Mode is on Spreaker as well as the History Seekers, and then American Digger Relic Roundup. All of those are very good channels to listen to. Most of those have a guest every night. Even if they don't have a guest, they've got some important information that they pass along. And we can try tonight to take some calls as well. Our call-in number is 270-495-0315. If someone would put that in the chat for me, I would appreciate it, because it's kind of hard to maneuver everything with the board and everything here and type at the same time. But the call-in number again is area code 270-495-0315. Just remember that we have a family-friendly program here, so if you call in, be sure and watch your language. I want to, and I was thinking this afternoon, of course, my first experience was with radio, and Ohio Relic Hunter said to repeat it one more time. 270-495-0315. Thank you, Bill. My first deal with experience with radio was whenever I was a very, very young man in Lubbock, Texas, where I was born and raised. And really, all that I did on that show was the weather. Now, I wasn't a weatherman. I just took the information that the weathermen gave, and at different segments during the day there, I would do the weather spot. They were never right, so I was always wrong as well. But I remember doing that, and there was a disc jockey that was on that was called Sky Corbin. Of course, you're out in West Texas. If you've ever been out there, you know it's flatter than a tabletop, and you can see for 100 miles. But I'll never forget how Sky Corbin used to come on with his radio show. He'd say that he was Sky Corbin. He said, "I'm a lover, I'm a fighter, I'm a wild horse rider, and a pretty darn fair windmill man, too." So I thought this afternoon, once I got all the information that everybody wasn't going to be here, I thought, well, you know, I'm as tough as Sky Corbin was, and so I'll take advantage of that and try it here tonight. But thanks for everybody joining in, and we do wish Jeff and his family all the best. You know, I want to try and kill a couple of birds with one stone in tonight's show. I've been asked over the past year especially a number of questions about how that I edit video. Of course, a little bit, I guess, of background would be in order here, because I do have a history in media. I was a newspaper editor for a number of years. I was a photojournalist, and there's Deborah Minnick has come in. Hello, Deborah. But I do have a background in different forms of media, and so it made it just a little bit easier probably for me. But if you're thinking about starting to do YouTube videos, one of the first things that I would tell you is to not be intimidated. Go ahead and take the jump. If you go back and look at Diggin with 7, my first video or two, if I go back and look at those, they are terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible compared to compared to how I have advanced in video editing now. You may want to know, the process, maybe some of the stuff that I use. And there's Bill McDougall has come in. Hello, Bill. I use Power Director 15 as my video editing software, but I also edit audio. And as most of you know, I am a musician. I don't play any live shows anymore. Every now and then, there's Pete Floyd. I don't play any live shows, but I do still do some studio work, and so I'm very versed on audio. But I use a free audio program. Forrest Net is in. I talked to Forrest some, and there's Missouri Mike. My goodness. We got a lot of people that were expecting a good show tonight. I hope that hope I don't let you down. But anyway, Audacity is a free audio program. All you have to do is just go on the internet and just go to Google and type in Audacity, Audacity. It's a great program, and if you're going to start to put out videos, one of the best things that you can do is improve the audio on something. I hate to watch a video and the audio is too light, way off out in the distance or something. I want to be able to hear everything. I noticed on some of mine, of course, my main camera is my iPhone 7 Plus. And I use a lapel mic, and a lot of times I can even hear myself breathing. Of course, I'm getting older, and you breathe a little bit harder the older that you get. But anyway, you want good audio if you're doing a video for YouTube. And like I said, I use Power Director 15. Now, I'm not saying there's Barb. Your alarm went off, didn't it? That's a good deal right there. Good to have you in so early, Barb. I was telling them I'm running solo tonight. Our guest called in sick, and Larry Stevens put in the link on the audio there. That's great. But anyway, Power Director 15 is what I use. And let me just kind of tell you how I go about my procedure. I'm not saying that Power Director or Audacity, you may have something that you're using that is that's great, and that's fine. You know, I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm not endorsed by any of these people or anything. I'm just telling you how that I do that. But anyway, whenever I first film my clips out in the field, whenever I get in, I upload those onto my computer, and I've got a folder on my desktop called Raw Video, and I just dump all of those in. And when you load all those in, you've got a spot that you can go to and then pull those into Power Director. Now, the very first thing that I do, and I think it's very important that you do this on every clip that you do, I pull it into my video editing program and edit. I cut the front off because you've always got a little bit of stuff. And here's another point. When you're filming in the field, try to look through your camera and imagine what the viewer is seeing. A lot of times I see guys, they'll turn their camera on and they'll start talking, and they're just everywhere, you know, before they get to the main event or the find or what have you. But anyway, you go and clip those video clips that you have. Take part of it off of the front that didn't belong, and then cut the end of it. And then next thing that I do is I work on the audio. Once I get my clip, the front end, all the trash cut off it, all the trash cut off the back end, then I go in and I pull the audio into, actually Power Director has an audio program that comes with it that you can use. But I will either pull it into that or pull it into Audacity. You can do more to the audio in Audacity than you can the wave editor that comes with Power Director. First thing that I do is, and of course this will be different for you than it is for me, and everybody will be different. The very first thing that I do is equalize my audio. I've got a lot of mid-range in my natural voice. And even on the radio program tonight, as it runs through the board, I'm cutting some of the mids because it's way too muddy and everything. And Ohio Relic Hunter has put the call-in number in again. And as I say, I'm running solo here tonight. So if you want to try to call in, we've had some trouble with Skype, but I think that we can probably take some calls. The number is 270-495-0315, and you'll at least, if you call in, give me a chance to take a drink of my Coke or something. But anyway, I go into my audio and I have to cut the mids on it. And, you know, you'll just have to play around with your voice and your audio. You can run the equalizer and just preview it, and you'll eventually come along and get the best sound that you can out of your voice. Now, if you're like me and most everybody else, you hate to hear yourself talk. Well, you'll get over that. As much editing as I do of my voice in videos and everything, I've got used to it, and you know, it is what it is. And you just make it sound the best that you can to where that you've got some clarity. It's okay to have a little bit of bottom end, a little bit of bass on it. Kind of gives you a little threshold to work from. You want just a little bit of highs in that so that you can understand, but not so much that your S's and things go to being way too prominent in that. But anyway, then after whenever I edit a clip, give it a number. Whenever I pull them in off of my iPhone, they will already have a video number that the iPhone gives them. I keep that number in that. And then I will title it like 58 Mini Ball. I'll put like the clip may be 7713, and then I'll put 758 Mini Ball. And then I pull those clips into edited video. And then whenever I get ready to do a video, I've got all of those clips. They're ready to go. You're ready to pull them in. And obviously, and Ohio Relic Hunter is right. We are our own worst critics whenever it comes to voice and hearing ourselves or seeing ourselves on video. Trust me, all of that you'll get used to all of that. Nobody, you're not alone. Nobody likes to hear their own voice or see themselves on video for a while. But just remember what you're trying to do. You're trying to create a show. You're trying to create a video that you want to share your experience with someone else. And you're not trying to make a living off this. You're not trying to go to Hollywood. You're just trying to put things together. And Barb wanted to know what program that I'm using. Barb, on my editing program, I said a while ago, I'm using Power Director 15 for video. I'm using, and it has an audio program in it, but I do doctor all of my audio to make it sound the best that it can. But then I use Audacity, and that is a free audio program, and I think Larry Stevens put that in there a while ago, a link to that. But Audacity is an audio program. But back to what I was talking about, when you've got all those clips, and I've got it in edited video, one good thing about Power Director is that I can set up templates. Now, me and Tennessee Jeff, when we hunt together, I've got a template that is set up for us. I've got, there's Jeff Ford. Welcome in, Jeff. Missouri Mike is in as well. He beat you in tonight. But anyway, once I get, Jeff, I'm running solo here tonight because our guest called in sick, and then Tennessee Jeff had some things come up, and he couldn't make it either. So I'm kind of here all by myself. Dennis put Audacity back in there again, so you'll be able to go and find that link. Appreciate that. But anyway, going back to the templates in Power Director 15, I'm able to put in templates for if I do a solo hunt, I've got a different template than when me and Jeff hunt together. I've got a different intro song, and I've got a different close to that. But you can put all of that in Power Director 15 and just give it a name. And then when you get ready to put together a video, well, I will pull up the 7 in Tennessee Jeff template. And really all I have to do is I just have to go in and add my clips from where I put those in edited video. Just pull those in. And I also put a 1-second fade at the beginning and at the end of each clip. And if you've got Power Director 15 or any video editing software, you don't want one clip to just really jump into another clip. Sometimes that's good, but sometimes it's not. Most of the time it's not. You want to kind of blend and bleed in from one to the other. So I put a 1-second fade at the first of a clip and at the end of a clip. What else? Well, even on my history clips, I do my history clips as a standalone video. And I put the music that I have chosen to use over the past year for history clips. I put that in, and then I've got that little thing that flashes, that kind of zooms in at the first, that says Diggin with 7, digging into the past, history clip, whatever it says. I don't really remember. But I bring that in, and then I will go ahead and whatever I'm doing a history clip on, I'll go ahead and do all of my research and get all my notes together and everything, and then I'll type that out in Word and get all of my vocal stuff there that I want to do, audio stuff. And then I'll just sit down at the mic and go ahead and record all of that at one time. And then go through and edit that audio and get it to sound in just like I want it to. Raise the levels up and do a little bit of equalization, whatever I think that it needs. And then you're able to pull that in, and then it's just a matter of getting the visual images that you want to use. Now, obviously, sometimes whenever you're talking about a find that you have, you want to include maybe a piece of the video of that find at the first of it. But then you want to, pull some things off the internet that help illustrate all of that. And so I pull all that into Power Director 15. And I go ahead and you're able to preview that. I don't want to get off track or anything, but Jeff Ford wants to know what Mac do I use in the studio. Right now I'm talking on a Shure SM58, and that's just because I don't get any background noise or anything with that. On my history clips, I've got a Rode NT-A1 condenser mic. It's a very good studio mic, and that's what I use. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. I could probably get by with just my lapel mic on my iPhone 7. It has really good audio, and you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money on everything. Now, I'm a studio musician, and obviously I have a studio that is set up in the house here. It's not as good as Nashville or Mount Juliet, but it is a decent studio that I have here. So, I've got some money tied up over the years in the things that I've bought and things that I use, mixers and all of the effects and things. By the way, I don't run any effects in any of my audio on YouTube. It's just all basic audio. But as I was saying there a while ago, once you get all those clips and everything pulled in together, then you're able to go ahead and render that history clip video. And I don't put the music. I've got a song that is called Giant Leap that I use on my history clips. And I don't put that in the original history clip rendering. I go ahead and do that as a separate video, and then I will bring it into the video that I'm going to release, and I will pull in the Giant Leap music, and I'm able to kind of cheat it into the frame before. Let's just say that me and Jeff were out hunting, and we're finding some mini balls and what have you. And then toward the end of that clip, I want that music to fade in and just be at the end of the clip, and then come in on the history clip. And then if you'll notice, when the history clip ends, that music will begin to fade out through the next clip. And that way you're kind of, it helps blend and bring all of your production together. And Chris Heimsoff is in. Welcome, Chris. I started to call you a while ago. If I'd had your number, I would have called you and just told you I'm going to have you on the program tonight. I hadn't had you. And as I said, our guest has got the flu, the guy that we had scheduled for tonight. And he wasn't able to make it. And then Jeff had some family things that came up, and he couldn't make it. But I'll get you on here, Chris. He's part of that, the third part of that Missouri duo over there with Jeff Ford and Missouri Mike, and then Chris Heimsoff. All good guys. If you haven't watched any of their videos, you can watch them. And Jeff Ford knows what I'm talking about, too. Jeff does a radio show. They do an outdoor show there where he's at. So he knows all about all of this. And Ohio Relic Hunter has put the number up there again. It probably would help me tonight to have a call in and see if I could get somebody here. At least it'd let me take a breath and get a drink of Coca-Cola or something other. But anyway, the call-in number is 270-495-0315. Again, that's 270-495-0315. Kind of off the subject just a little bit, but I haven't heard anything on Keebs today. I know that with Stealth Diggers, I know that he had an operation for a hernia, and I saw something on Facebook briefly. I think maybe this morning that he had got out of surgery, but I don't know anything about. Well, we've got one coming in. Let's see who we got. Hey, who we got here?
This is Chris.
Hey, Chris, what's going on, man?
Not much. How are you doing? Sorry, I was running late tonight.
Do what?
But sorry, I was running a little bit late tonight at work.
Oh, that's fine. Some of us have got to work.
I know. Wouldn't it be nice just to be able to detect all the time? Jeff Ford. Hi, Jeff.
Yes, it would. It would. It'd be nice to. I tell you what. Of course, I enjoy detecting, but all of the stuff that I do with, and most of the program tonight, or some of the program tonight, I was dedicating to video editing, and the editing and everything that I do, and the history clips that I do. This has become a job. I tell you, there's a lot of work goes into it that people really don't realize.
I don't see how you do it. I would love to do my videos the way you do yours. And people have asked me, why don't you tell a little bit more about what you're finding and why you're finding what you're finding, where you're finding it. You do such a great job of that. I think I commented on one of your videos. It's just a wonderful history lesson. It gets you excited about it. If I was teaching history in a school, I'd be pulling your videos up.
Well, I appreciate that. Matt Purdue has got in, and Patrick Cox has got in. We got a lot of people in tonight. Yeah, Chris, I do appreciate that. I'm a history student. I'm an old man, but I'm a history student and have been all of my life. And isn't that why we got into this hobby? Is because of the history?
Absolutely. But you also have something kind of special in your presentation. You have the voice. Jeff Ford has the voice. And I tell you who really has the radio voice is Matt, Tar Heel Diggin.
Yes, he does.
If he's not in radio, Matt, if you're not in radio, you ought to be in radio.
He's not. But I agree with you. He is. He has a very good voice. And, when you first listen to Matt, and by the way, Matt, the video that I edited today, which is going to be part 2, it's episode 162. And to tell you the truth, I've got a video that I just keep bumping back and bumping back and bumping back. It was a little short hunt, cold hunt here in Kentucky that I did with a friend of mine here. And then me and Jeff obviously went to the Battle of Hartsville and hunted that. And he found the gold ring, and it just made this video that came out day before yesterday is my favorite video that I have ever done. And I think it's because of the content and everything, but I like the structure of it too, where I'm able to narrate a little bit of history through it. And I think people like that, don't you?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well,
that ring.
Go ahead.
That ring piece, and you guys looking that up, that was just fantastic.
Well, and we were very fortunate that, of course, Jeff was fortunate to find that. There's no doubt about it. Somebody said today on the video, commented that it was Jeff's lucky day. Obviously, there is some luck in that, but there is also a lot of skill in that. Jeff is a great hunter. I mean, you have to know what your machine is telling you. And but also Jeff is persistent. You know, I've hunted with people before, and you can tell that they're lazy. They get a signal, and if it's too deep, they just quit it and walk off. And you see it in the way that they may not put their dirt back right. Even if I'm in the woods, I'm going to cover everything up and try to make it look like that I wasn't there or in a plowed field or anything. But you know, we were very lucky because he found that ring and where he found it. Now, on the video that's going to come out this next week, which will be the Battle of Hartsville Part 2, I include a map on that, and it shows where each of those units were at. They had the 106th Ohio, they had the 108th Ohio, they had the 104th Indiana. All those are infantry. Then they had the 2nd Indiana Cavalry. Now, Christian Beck was with the 2nd Indiana Cavalry, and we know exactly where they camped, and that is exactly where Jeff found the ring. So the probability of that ring belonging to Christian Beck, and I think that there were only, I think that there were 3 other guys in the 2nd Indiana that would have had the initial CB. 2 of them didn't join the 2nd Indiana until after that battle, and the other one was just a young private. And I can't see a young private having a gold ring with a shield, which officers, you know, they would buy those, either a shield that they wore on their breast or their cap, or even a ring, you know, because they were proud of what they had accomplished. So, you know, we've got a lot of evidence that was Christian Beck that owned that ring.
I think you're spot on. I don't think a private would have. He's going to be in the mix with a lot of. So there's going to be some unscrupulous people around him that would be more apt to swipe something like that than from an officer. And I just think you're right. I think it was an officer's ring.
Yeah, I do.
To hold that, to think about that individual there, I don't know. It just gives you kind of gives you goosebumps. And I don't know what heaven's going to be like, but I like to think that guy was looking down and was like, finally, somebody found my ring, and they're getting to enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, obviously, Jeff Ford brings up a point here. He said he found it interesting that many wore rings on their pinky. Me too, Jeff. I didn't know that. I was not aware of that. And that was one thing that bothered me and Tennessee Jeff whenever we first found, or when he first found the ring. And actually, I was on the other side of the camp hunting, and Jeff called me. And he said, are you finding anything? And actually, I got into a little hot spot there. I was finding some bullets. I had just found a knapsack triangle, and I had a little spot that I was in a line that was about 10 feet long, and just creeping along through that and finding something on every pass. And he called me, and he said, I think you need to come over here. And I said, you got some stuff? He said, yeah, I've got a couple of bullets. But he said, I've got gold in the hole here. And I told him, I said, well, I'll be there in just a minute. And I went over, and of course he'd already pulled it out and looked at it. And he said, I've got a gold ring. And whenever I first looked at it, how small it was, I thought, well, he's found a kid's ring. You know, it never occurred to me that he had the possibility of a ring that a Civil War soldier would have worn. But then, as Jeff Ford points out, you know, I didn't know that it was kind of in vogue at the time for soldiers and even, you know, men that weren't in the military to wear pinky rings. I always thought that's kind of sissy, didn't you?
Well, I had a pinky ring. My father-in-law, Lance fancied himself as something of a gangster, I guess, or Italian mobster, and he bought everyone in the family pinky rings. So we all had pinky rings. But I wondered about that too. I did not realize that. I found small rings before on sites, always brass, but I thought, my gosh, I knew they were small, but this must have been a woman's ring. Maybe he wore it around his neck, but that's what I was thinking. So that's interesting. And I appreciated that too. I had no idea pinky rings were so popular then.
I didn't either. And Jeff Ford said, wouldn't a picture be awesome? I tell you what, I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked, and, I would have given anything in the world to have had a picture of Christian Beck. And it's going to kind of be up to, Jeff Ford said, Civil War gangsters.
Yes. Yeah, Jeff's being pretty honorary in there, of course.
How do you hunt with that guy?
Oh, man, he has the best sense of humor.
He does.
Gosh, he's funny. He is.
And
he's just a good guy. Him and Mike both are just a pleasure to be around. I hope I get to hunt with them more.
Yeah.
But I just thought of something, though. I wish, do you watch Silver Slingers? What is that, Dominique Ivy de Silva?
No, I don't think so.
No, well, whenever she hunts with a guy named Tiger, and when he finds something, she goes screaming and running over to him, and that was the image that I had of when Jeff called you and said he had gold in the hole. You just have to kind of see their videos. Somebody on here will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, and I'll tell you what, I hate to say it, but as involved as this has become, I don't get to watch as many videos as I used to. I used to watch a ton of videos. And
that's the truth.
Yeah, I just don't.
I don't see how you have time to, because your videos honestly look like they've got to take, I don't know, for a 20-minute video, I know how long it takes me to do one. I'm thinking you're looking at 4 hours or more worth of work. It takes me quite a while just to do a simple little video.
Well, it takes me longer than that. I had all of my video clips, and that was what part of this show was going to be, because I didn't know if I'd get anybody to call in or not. But I had all of my clips already edited and in the folder of edited video. So all of the clips, say from the hunt that came out Tuesday, I already had all those clips edited and the audio adjusted on them and everything, and I had them all in there. I already had my template done. But then I had to do the research. Now, a disclaimer, Jeff helped a whole lot on this research. He normally doesn't do anything on the research that we're doing because in the first place, a lot of times he doesn't know what I'm going to do a history clip on. But I told him, I said, obviously, if I can, I want to do some kind of history clip on this ring and get as much information as we can about gold rings and everything in the Civil War. And so I'd get a text every once in a while, and I sat up here in the studio one whole day just doing research on rings, and then every once in a while Jeff would he'd shoot me a text, and he said, every Civil War ring that I'm finding, they're wearing it on their pinky. And I said that, and I was seeing the same thing that he was seeing at the time. And then I shot him a text back, and I said, I know the units that were involved in that battle, but can you tell me who was in the specific area where the ring was found? And I had already found Christian Beck, and I knew that he was in the 2nd Indiana Cavalry. But I didn't want to tell Jeff that because I didn't want to bias whatever answer that he gave me. And I said, you've got that map, don't you? And he said, yeah. And I said, of course, I had a copy of it too. And I said, no, I didn't at the time. But I said, look at your map and tell me exactly by the map who was in that area. Hey, we got Liz in, Diggin Canuck. Welcome, Liz. But anyway, Jeff told me, he said, it's a 2nd Indiana Cavalry. And I had already researched the 106th Ohio, 108th Ohio, 104th Indiana, and the 2nd Indiana Cavalry. And the only CB officer-wise that I come up with was Christian Beck. But I didn't want to tell him that because, obviously I wanted to get an unbiased answer from him. And so that was part of the verification for me, plus the fact that it's a shield ring, Who's going to have a shield ring?
I've never seen that. Is that typical of Civil War?
Yes. In fact, if you look at a lot of the Corps badges are ID badges that soldiers and officers would mainly buy those, and they would have a jeweler make those. They were proud of the rank that they had gained, and it was part of the prestige. And I'm kind of like you. I wouldn't want to be a 16-year-old private in a tent line with a bunch of guys with a gold ring, would you?
No, that's why I think you're spot on. That's pretty interesting. I've not read about. Maybe I'll start looking this up. It interests me that pinky rings were so prevalent or popular. And we all know Jeff Ford will be wearing one before no time. And did you see Jeff's comment about you getting over there to video?
No.
Jeff finding that ring?
No.
He said Jeff found it an hour before you got there. It just took you that long. He said he found it an hour before. It took 7 that long to get there.
To get across the field. Yeah, I see it there. He found it an hour before and took 7 that long to get there. It wasn't. I don't know. I don't know how you hunt with him. You and Missouri Mike, poor guys. I tell you, I feel sorry for Missouri Mike every once in a while because Jeff gives him he gives him a hard time.
Mike wanted to know how deep that ring was.
Good question. And it's part of the verification that we use to increase the probability that it was Civil War. Jeff first dug a 58 caliber mini ball that was between 7 and 8 inches. He then dug a couple of pieces of camp lead that were 7 to 8 inches. And all of this is in one area that is probably 3 foot in circumference. He dug another bullet that was about 7 or 8 inches, and then he got the signal on the ring, and it was 7 or 8 inches. Everything that he dug was at the same depth. So if you know that this was and Bill McDougall brings in a good point. That's why I like being able to watch the chat. And, whenever Jeff is here, or at least whenever I have Sydney here in the control room with me, I got somebody to read the chat. But Bill McDougall says, I've read that the West Point class rings were pinky rings.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's pretty amazing.
It is.
That makes me wonder more about the origin of that ring.
Well, Larry Stevens, and I pointed this out kind of at the first. Larry Stevens, and he kind of got aggravated. Not aggravated, he's just kind of kidding me. But today about 1 o'clock, he's been on a quest. He's been researching Christian Beck. I think he's going in the wrong direction. He's in Kansas with that. And I started to send him a text today. But on Christian Beck's, whenever he enlisted, he at first lived, whenever he was a younger man, in Colliersville, Indiana. I may be saying that wrong, but anyway, I believe that's what it is, Colliersville, and then moved to Indianapolis. And he and his brother had a gunsmith shop. And then Christian Beck went into the service, and then I had 1 or 2 people say, wouldn't it be interesting to know if Christian Beck survived the war? Well, he did. He went back to Indianapolis and resumed his gunsmithing work there. So he was a notable character. I mean, this just wasn't somebody that wanted to go somewhere for the war, like a lot of young men back in the day probably did. They didn't have anything else to do. And he was a notable character.
Did he have military training? Did he go to a military school?
Not that I know of. Don't think so. I don't think that he would have been a West Point or anything. And Jeff Ford wanted to know, was the ring a high or low tone on the GPX? It was high tone, but everything in that field on Jeff's machine is a high tone. I don't know why, and we talked about that. I don't know if it, and Jeff, you may be able to help us on this. You can adjust the frequency of the tone as you hear it, and would that, if you have that too high, will everything be a high tone? Or if you adjust it down, would everything be a low tone? I don't know the answer to that question. And I know Barbie's got a GPX. She may know the answer to that question. I don't. And to tell you the truth...
Jeff might know that...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know. Jeff's searching Amazon for pinky rings right now, it looks like. So I don't know if he...
Oh, me. Yeah, y'all. Audio tone is what it is. And from the factory, it has 50/38. On the DIV recommendation, it's preference. And I know that Tennessee Jeff runs his audio tone at 38, and I know that Plugmaster Ford runs his tone on his GPX at 27. Or those are the numbers that they gave me. I don't know what mine is. Mine's downstairs, and to tell you the truth, unless I do. I've got a paper here. I've got mine at 38. I've got mine at 38.
At 38?
Yeah.
Jeff Ford Plugmaster said that maybe Jeff has his signals inverted. I don't know what that means. I don't use one of those.
He could have. I don't think so. I did that by accident on my, and if I understand it right, whenever you can do the inversion, and it makes deeper targets sound louder and shallower targets, Jeff Ford, he can help us out on that in the chat. But that's kind of my understanding, and I had mine accidentally set like that, and I couldn't hunt that way. I think you have to be after something special that is deep whenever you run those inversion settings on there. I don't know.
Has that site been hunted pretty hard in the past?
For about 30-something years, as hard as you can hunt it. A lot of people, and some people said, to us, well, it's great that y'all were able to do that research and find that place. We didn't have to do any research. Everybody and their dogs that's ever relic hunted knows where that place is at and probably hunted it. And their daddy probably hunted it. And that's what's so amazing to me is, and we went back, we went back on Monday and did another hunt there. And we didn't find any gold. In fact, we didn't find anything spectacular. Well, I say nothing. There is one unusual find that Jeff found that was a pretty good find. But other than that, just bullets and brass and stuff like that. But it's amazing to me. I mean, they're just 6 or 7 inches deep, but obviously no VLF machines are finding those bullets because people still hunt that site. I mean, even right now, there are people that still go to that site.
And anybody else finding that ring, it probably would have gone in the display case and on their shelf, but because Jeff found it, it's on the internet, and Christian Beck, who was lost to history, has got some notoriety again and is getting some attention. I just think that's pretty neat.
That runs chills up my back to even think that I had a part in that, you know. Barb said that she runs her audio tone on 38 as well. Thanks for going and checking on that. Paul Forsay is in the house. Hello, Paul. We're glad to have you. Glad to have all we can get tonight, ain't we, Chris?
Yes. If anybody else calls in, I'll jump off and let somebody else in. I'm just chatting.
No, you're hooked right now. You at least give me an opportunity to take a drink of Coke or something. But seriously, I had you on the list. I wanted to holler at you and get you on. I want to get you on some night whenever. And I think it'd probably be good to get you and Missouri Mike and Jeff Ford all three together because you guys, y'all live pretty close together, don't you?
Yeah, we're about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours apart, but we meet in the middle.
Yeah. Well, that's the way that...
Get them up here to hunt some river towns with me.
Yeah. Y'all are y'all around Springfield?
That's where they are. They're down around Springfield. I'm up in Jefferson City, the capital of Missouri. I'm up on the Missouri River.
I've got a couple of guys that I was good friends. I'm still good friends with them, but don't get to talk to them as much on friendly metal detecting. One of them goes by Chip 61, and the other one goes by M.O. Bob or Missouri Bob. Do you know either of those guys? They're Civil War hunters.
I don't think I know them personally. Chip 61 comments on my videos. He's watched them for a while.
Well, he's in Missouri. Yeah.
Yeah, Missouri Bob. I don't think I know who Missouri Bob is. Unless it's Bob. I can't think of his last name. It's like Kanunachik. But Jeff Ford knows that Bob. I don't know. Maybe Jeff can tell me if it's the same Missouri Bob, but I don't know for sure.
Well, anyway, those. Hey, Mark Hoover's in. Hey, Mark, good to have you in the house tonight. Both of those guys back whenever, and that was about all that I did for a while was just metal detecting forums on friendly metal detecting, and I enjoyed that. And Nugget Noggin was on there for a while, and then Nugget Noggin disappeared, and he started doing videos. So I got to thinking, well, you know, I'd like to do some videos too. And once I started doing that, I mean, I couldn't, you know, I just didn't have time to get on the forums anymore. And I miss those guys. And
I've gone back and started watching some of your older videos just to watch you progress and see what you picked up and learned. Maybe I can get something, but I get excited when I get a find, and sometimes I forget to keep the camera on the find, and all those little silly things that someone with ADD can fall prey to pretty easily.
Well, it just takes time, and you have to kind of, I don't know, you kind of have to be aware when you're looking through the camera to say, what is the viewer seeing? You know, just kind of slow down, because that relic's not going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter if it takes you an hour to film it. It's not going anywhere. Barb said that her secretary, Mark Hoover said, your secretary messaged me. I don't know, they had something going on last night that Barb was saying she was going to set her alarm so that she would know, be reminded of the show tonight. And then Ohio Relic Hunter said that he would call her. I guess that's her secretary.
That Barb she's ornery, boy. I've been enjoying her comments.
Yeah, she is. And I tell you what, she's a hunter. Jordan Anderson said, what type of camera do you use in the field? As I pointed out earlier in the show, 99% of everything that I do now is on my iPhone 7 Plus. And I have an external lapel condenser mic that I wire that I plug into that. And dadgum iPhones, you got to have one of those little adapters and everything, And but I just don't get good audio if I just use my phone. Now, Jeff's phone is completely different. He doesn't have an iPhone. He's got a Samsung or something. He gets good audio on his. I just don't get good audio on my iPhone unless I put a lapel mic on. And then I use a GoPro some. We need to start using a GoPro more and get a little bit different, some different angle shots of when we're swinging and stuff like that. But
Jeff Ford has a nice camera. He and Missouri Mike both use a JVC Quad Pro. I had asked him because it seems to focus fast whether he's at a distance or when he comes in close on a find, it focuses really quick. And I appreciate that a lot in making videos and watching them. And my camera's a Nikon AW120 waterproof camera, but it does not focus that fast, and I catch myself saying, come on, focus, and putting little bits in videos that I don't need or needing to cut those out.
I've got one of those cameras like they've got. I tell you what I like about, and Matt Perdue said, have you ever thought about a drone? Yes, I have. And I can't put the money into a drone right now, and I don't want to buy a cheap one. But that's something in our future. I think you can overdo that, and I've seen some people do that, overdo the drone use. But I think that a little bit of that in videos would be fantastic. I mean, it would give you a completely different perspective on everything. And, that's something that we want to do in the future. Here's what I like about the iPhone 7. And a case in point is a piece of Spanish silver that I found last year at what me and Tennessee Jeff call the Rockwall Field. I dug a hole whenever I got that signal, and the ground was full of roots. And there's all of these roots that are laying over the mouth of the hole. And you can see that piece of cut silver in the bottom of the hole, but it's in behind those roots. And there's actually a worm that's crawling over the piece of silver. That was one of the questions on our pinpointer contest that me and Jeff did this last year in December. But anyway, with the iPhone 7, I can set the exposure and focus to a certain point just by touching my screen. And so I went in on the piece cut silver and touched the screen there and made it focus and made it stay on the silver. And then you blur out all of the roots. Now, if you're just using a regular handheld camera, that thing's going to jump back and forth. You may be focused on the roots at one point and then on the silver. And, I do that sometimes anyway, whenever you're walking out across a field and looking at the hole and then looking up at Jeff and then looking at the find. It may focus on different things, but that's just part of it. And I think people expect to see a little imperfection, don't you?
Yeah, but that's pretty slick that phone can do that. You're right. I can't do that with my camera at all.
No. And if I want mine to focus, I can make it focus. In fact, I'm doing that constantly whenever I'm filming. I'm touching my screen where I want to touch it. And you can even hold your finger there and lock the focus and lock the exposure. There's some things I don't like about it, but then there are some things that I do. Don't know that there's any perfect thing.
I like the idea of having an external mic hooked up too. That's a good idea.
Well, that gets old by the time you get to the end of the day, because I've got a little pouch on my bag that of course, that thing has got a battery and got a module, and then you've got your two leads, and the thing's about, I don't know, it's 10 foot long. It's got a little bag that it goes in, and I keep most of the cord wrapped up there, but I've got to take that thing out unwind it and hook it up every time that we have a find. So.
Oh, that does cut into some detecting time then, doesn't it?
That and walking a half a mile across the film to film Jeff's gold ring.
Maybe you could just shoot the drone. You could stand where you are and fly the drone over to look at the ring.
There you go. That's another good reason to get a drone, I tell you.
Looks like a lot of people have them. Jeff's got one. Barb's got one. Matt's got one.
Yeah, I think I talked to Matt about that, and I haven't been able to keep up with all the chat, doing everything else that I'm trying to do here. But anyway, it would really add. I think it would really add something to to a video to have a. I didn't mean to do that.
You're playing the guitar and you're chatting and you're doing this. You're ambidextrous.
I was loading up the outro thing that I'm going to put on, and I put you on mute instead of the music. I tell you what, I'm redneck all the way, I tell you.
Deborah says, how much space or memory does your iPhone have?
I don't know, but my last one was an iPhone 6, and it didn't have enough. And I had to delete videos off of it after every hunt. Whenever I come home, I'd upload them onto the computer and then delete them. I still do that, but I could probably go 10 or 15 hunts now, because whenever I upgraded to the iPhone 7, I told him, I said, I want one with a lot of memory, because I shoot a lot of video, and I need to have it on there. I need to have enough room. And so they set me up in that. I don't think I've got the most that you can get, but I've got plenty. Are you still there, Chris? Is everybody hearing me? Somebody get in. I've lost Chris here some way. Hello?
Hey, Seven.
Yeah.
I lost you.
Yeah, I lost you too. I was wondering if everybody could hear me, and they finally all started coming in. I don't know if that was on your end or whether that was Skype. I know that some of the other programs have had trouble with Skype here lately, and our problem with Skype is that, and that's what I use for everybody, everybody, all the guests and everything, and even Tennessee Jeff. But our problem is, I can call everybody before the show. I don't know how many people I could put on at one time, but then after we get to going, I don't. I can't bring somebody else in without cutting somebody off.
Can I jump around here and ask some questions of? I'd like to ask Matt how many harmonicas he pulled off a harmonica hill.
Well, Matt wasn't on Harmonica Hill. That was me and Jeff. You still there, Chris? Well, I lost him again. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, no, he was asking about Harmonica Hill. That was me and Tennessee Jeff that were on Harmonica Hill, and we still don't know what was going on there at Harmonica Hill. I don't know how many. Okay. Matt Purdue says that he did have a Harmonica Hill back in the day. You back with me now, Chris?
Yes, sir. I don't know what's going on. I apologize.
That's okay. It's probably on my end. Matt, I didn't know you had a harmonica hill back in the day. Of course, Matt's not on the phone, so he can't answer us.
No, but yeah, that's what he said. Too many to count. I used to. Matt was one of the first. Tar Heel Diggin was one of the first YouTubers I started watching, and I always thought, man, I liked his opening scene. He's got all those harmonica pieces laying up there, and that always just kind of impressed me. That Skype ringtone makes me sleepy. Jeff Ford, sharp and ornery.
I'm trying to get Matt on the phone.
Call in, Matt.
I called him. I don't know if he's going to answer it or not.
Oh, Barb says every time she calls in, I get knocked off. I'll hang up here, Seven, and let Barb and Matt call in, okay?
Hey, Matt, are you there?
Hey, Seven, I'm here.
No, you can stay on, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to turn your volume down there because there is a delay, and we're going back in history. I didn't know you had a harmonica hill, Matt.
Yeah, this is going back a few years in North Carolina, Seven. I did find a place that was just chock full of harmonica reeds at one point, and I've got a few videos out there. I'll send you a couple links. It's pretty hilarious. It's one after another.
Well, you saw mine and Jeff's videos on Harmonica Hill, and I have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
That was a colonial site, but also had a little bit of Civil War encampment around that house. What's your idea on harmonicas like that?
You know, it's hard to tell. I spent the better part of a year and a half trying to figure out why all these harmonica reeds were coming out of the ground. I didn't know if there was a musician in the family there or something going on, but it was all mixed in right at this site, this Union campsite. I was pulling up buttons and bullets, and I don't know. I bet pretty close to 100 harmonica reeds over a year and a half.
Huh.
Wow.
Well, then, Chris, you knew something that I didn't know.
That's probably the only thing, to be honest with you.
I don't know about that. Jeff Ford said that was when he first subbed to you, Matt.
Yeah, it was a couple of years back. It was back in North Carolina, and it was definitely on a hilltop, and there just happened to be a lot of Civil War relics there as well. So I dug every one of them, and it was pretty crazy. I'll send you a few links, Seven, so you can go back and take a look at them.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Barb she's been trying to get on. That's the problem that we have, Barb. People calling in, I can't get them, and I don't know why. I've got a good computer that I send all of my Spreaker stuff through and do all my video editing. I've got an older computer that I just run my music on, and I'm running Skype on my phone, and I'm looking into maybe just getting me another computer to run music and Skype. And I know Josh and them, they don't have any problem, and I can't figure out why we can't do it. And I've tried to put Skype on this other computer, and I can't get it to work. I need a bright mind like Jeff Ford to come and help me out.
Yeah. Hey, where's
Matt,
Jeff tonight? I was going to ask him if he had any gold rings for sale.
Jeff, his mother-in-law is terminally ill with cancer, and he's tending to her tonight. And then we had a guest that was supposed to be on tonight that has got the flu. And so I started this thing out solo and was just talking about video editing and hoping that somebody would call, and Chris obliged me. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk to Matt about, Chris?
Well, I was wanting to ask a little bit more about harmonica reeds. I was just thinking about them and wondering, I've dug a few that looked like they were made of zinc. Wondering if you've ever dug any of those. either of you?
Yeah, I've got a couple of those that are a little more banged up. It's like the material wasn't 100% brass. It was a cheaper material, maybe zinc or pewter. It kind of has that look to it anyway. Now, I don't know if it's just something in the soil that makes them that way or if there was a different metal involved. But I do notice that. Some of them kind of have that pewter look to them.
They would come out of the ground, the ones I dug would come out of the ground almost white. They would ring up a little bit higher than the brass harmonica plates or reeds. How about you, Seven?
I found a few of those, not a whole lot. And the video that I keep kicking back in the box and not releasing, I've got a harmonica that I find on it. I actually found two pieces. It's an old house site that probably dates back to the early 1900s. And by the way, harmonicas really didn't come into their own until about the 1860s. About the start of the Civil War was when they started importing those from overseas and bringing them in. And Dave Miller said those may be Chinese knockoff. I don't know. Possibility, I guess. But I found a harmonica reed, and either one of you guys may have found one like it. The back end of it has a big arch. Instead of it being straight, it's arched. And I don't know that I've ever found one like that.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those
videos.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those where the whole reed is arched like that. It's very, very peculiar.
It is. And the front is straight, but the back is arched. And, being a musician, the music's going to come out the back side. And so if you've got that arch, it seems to me that it would blend your tones on each end and kind of project everything toward the middle. It was a good idea, or it looks to me like it was a good idea.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I have a harmonica that has an arched, the mouthpiece part that you're blowing into, that piece is arched. And it's a new harmonica that I have that...
well, maybe I got it backwards then. Maybe the arch is on the front.
I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is on mine. It's a double, what do you call it, a double reed harmonica, or it's got two layers, two levels.
Right. Maybe I've got that backwards then. That'd just make it, you wouldn't have to slide the harmonica as much, just kind of turn your head. And Barb said that she pulled 5 from a small area of an old lumber yard there. And that's kind of, that's kind of the way it is whenever when you find a spot that's got harmonicas, they're pretty well concentrated. That's the way our harmonica hill was. What about yours, Matt? Were they concentrated or pretty well scattered?
Yeah, no, very much so. They were very concentrated, and you'd find pieces, parts and pieces here and there. A few occasional whole reeds, but it was just scattered everywhere. It was like there was a harmonica repair shop there. I kept waiting to dig a sign that said, Johnson's Harmonica Repair Shop or something like that.
I know it, and that's the way we were. And we've had people that said maybe it was a music school. I can't imagine. This is just a little old dirt floor house. Had to be. It was colonial period because we dug a lot of flat buttons and shoe buckles and things like that. Nothing that we dug was 1900s. Nothing. I mean, everything was old there.
And some of the articles that I dug there at that site, they were turn of the century, right around 1900. There were some coverall buttons and some coins that, Indian head pennies from the early 1900s. So it's hard for me to say that, yes, it was definitely Civil War related, but it's a difficult puzzle to solve.
Well, see, we didn't find anything 1900. I found a first year 1859 Indian, and Jeff found an 1864 2-cent piece, and those are the only two coins that come out of that place. Both of them good ones. But so I know our site was old. I know that all all that stuff was, old. And Dave Miller said your hands fit better to bend or mute your notes. So, maybe we all learned something about harmonicas here.
Time for another history clip.
Yeah, well, I did a history clip on harmonicas. I don't remember exactly when it was, but Matt, what'd you think about Tennessee Jeff's ring?
Well, first of all, my thoughts and prayers are with Jeff and his family as he goes through what he's going through right now. But that was one of the most spectacular Civil War finds I've ever watched on YouTube. I'll be honest with you, Seven. I thought it was very intriguing, the history that you guys were able to do on that before posting the video. And just the video itself, the way it was structured, the music that was used, it was just fantastic. I think there's no doubt in my mind that ring belonged to Christian Beck, but the world will never know for sure. I just think it was a fantastic find, and there's just no two ways about it. It's got to be his number one find of all time. Yeah,
I think so too. And I'll be honest with you. I think Ohio Relic Hunter was the one that said that we are our own worst critics, and we are. And, you put a video out, and used to I'd put one out, and then I'd just obsess over it. I'd just look at it and say, well, I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have done that. And whenever you're editing a lot of stuff and doing a lot of history clips, and then you're trying to do a radio show, and then you're trying to get out and hunt, and then you're trying to take care of the other responsibilities that really come before all of this, you don't have the time to, to second guess yourself on everything. But to me, that was my favorite video that I've ever put out. And that's one of 161. But bar none. I mean, it was my favorite.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't take all the hollering and screaming and crazy reaction to really sink in what was just found, what was just located and recovered. And that thing was just gorgeous as it came out of the ground. So excellent videography on your part.
It was good. And I was probably, I was 300 or 400 yards from him. And I was in a hot spot. I was finding some bullets. I had just found a knapsack triangle. And he called me on the phone, and he said, are you finding anything? And I said, yeah, I finally got into a little hot spot right here, and I'm finding a few things. He said, well, you might want to come over here. And I said, why? Are you finding some stuff? I thought, well, if you're finding bullets, just stay over there, and then just leave your holes open, and we'll do that, if we're separated. And he finds something, sure. He'll just leave the hole open and lay it up there, because we don't do a lot of live digs anyway. And so sure. I said, well, if you're finding bullets, just leave your holes open and leave the bullet there, and I'll come and film them in a minute. And he said, I've got a hole that's got gold. And I told him, my first thought was, what do you think my first thought was, Chris?
I would guess a gold coin.
That is exactly what I guessed. And I told him, I said, I will be there in a minute. And so I went over there, and it took a while for it to really sink in on me. It took doing the research for it to finally sink in to me that this was a Civil War ring, because I'm a pessimist. And whenever I do history clips, I don't go to a forum and somebody's ID'd something as being, some Civil War colonial relic, and I just take one source. I guess it's the journalist in me, because I've got that background, but I like to have more than one source, and I like to have some reliable sources. So I was pessimistic whenever I pulled it out. I thought, you know what, that could be a kid's ring or something. And I didn't see the shield. Right. I didn't see the shield until, well, I told him, I said, I want to take some close-ups of it and everything, and then I'll put something together next week, whenever I get home. And then I noticed whenever I brought it into to my editing program, I said, well, that's strange. It's not symmetrical. And then I turned the photo, and it's a shield. And I said,
right,
wow. And then about the time that I noticed that, well, then Jeff sends me a text, and he said, did you know that that's a shield? I said, I just noticed that. And then as my research progressed, I seen that pinky rings were common. And well, heads up, guys. Yep. Come this next Tuesday, we got part 2 of the Hartsville hunt, and it is a similar video. It has narration in it, but it's it's got a completely different subject matter on the narration, which I think it's not as good as the first one, but it's a close second. It's a great video, I think, and I'm not patting myself on the back. I just the subject content of it's what I'm talking about. And I like that narration format.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Seven, I got to jump off here, buddy, but it's great chatting with you. Chris, great chatting with you as well, man.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Don, I wanted to ask Matt one more question.
Oh, sure.
Matt, will you be on?
Sure.
Well, I just wanted to know if you found a personalized item, like if you had a favorite or unusual personalized item that you'd found.
Oh, boy. Wow. Yeah, I have, actually. I found a U.S. Navy bracelet a couple of years back, and it wasn't all too terribly old. The gentleman happened to be a Korean War veteran. Vietnam veteran. And I was able to return it to his wife since he had deceased. So that was a pretty cool personalized find. It had his name and registration number on the back of the bracelet. So that was a pretty cool experience for me.
Oh, I bet so. I bet she was really touched.
Yeah, she was. She had me mail it to her, and she was very surprised to have a piece that her husband wore for so many years.
Yeah, well, that's great. No, I was just curious. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, good question. All right, thanks, guys. I got to bail out.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Take care, Matt.
Yep. What about you, Chris? Have you got some personalized item that you found that was notable?
I found a silver ring on a Civil War campsite that has initials inscribed in it, like a signet ring or what they call it. I found on another Civil War campsite, I found a large wax seal, and I'd like to try to figure out it's got a family crest on it is the seal. I would like to find out what that crest, if there's a way to find out what family that crest belongs to. And one other interesting one I found were two, they used to call them Prussian bullets. They're 69 caliber large. Yeah. I found two of those. Actually, I found maybe about 24 of these bullets, but two of them were carved with the initials HS, and one had the date, I believe it was 8/17/19, I think it's 1918, and the other one was 5/4. So all I can figure is that HS found these bullets in his field. Maybe he was a kid, carved his initials in them, and carved the date that he found the bullets, and then lost them again.
Huh. That is it.
I think that's, yeah, it's neat to find something that was held in the 1800s and dropped and lost, and then found in the 1900s and dropped and lost, and then I found it in 2015. Yeah,
it is. Just a quick note here. While I'm looking at it, Deborah Minnick said that Digger Charlie just let her know that Keebs is home, but that's all he knows. And for those of you that don't know, Keebs with Stealth Diggers, had surgery for a hernia, and I knew that he was out of surgery. I just hadn't heard anything today because, well, really, I've been working on a video all day, and I hadn't had time to really check. So that's good news. And Barb said she's still looking for the owner of her 1941 gold class ring. That would be a good return if you could do that. I'd give anything in the world to, and it'd kind of be up to Jeff because I know that he treasures that find. But it would be neat to get a hold of some of Christian Beck's family and, possibly find an old picture of him. And if you could find an old enough picture that maybe, before he went to the war where he was wearing that ring, or if there was any information about that ring. Of course, it'd be hard to do a return because you don't want to give a ring like that away to somebody that, you may be wrong. It might not have been theirs, but then there's always that possibility that they had a family picture or something where he had that on his finger. And, man, you talk about a story. That would be a story for magazines or anything, wouldn't it?
Yes, that would be fantastic. And I would hope that the family wouldn't ask for the ring back. I would be wanting to say, well, I'd like to keep it with the other relics from that time period that were with him possibly at that time, and I'd like to keep those together in my collection.
Well, he was, and I'm not going to give too much away because I've worked too hard today and the last few days in getting this video for Tuesday together. He was with the 2nd Indiana Cavalry, and of course they went through that battle, there's no doubt. But then they went on, they also went through some other stuff immediately after that battle as people were trying to lay the blame and everything. And so that's about all I'm going to say. But you can, I just try to put myself in Christian Beck's, in his person at the moment, understanding that this surprise attack has come. I was reading today a little bit more research, and I read through all of the official records of the battles. And one of the commanders that was captured asked the rebel soldiers if he could go back to his tent and get some of his personal belongings, and they told him no. And I just, it flashed through my mind, maybe Christian Beck had his ring in his tent. And then the battle starts,
yes.
And then they immediately took them from the battlefield back across the Cumberland River and took them as prisoners of war to Murfreesboro. And, if you just drop your ring, and then they burnt all the tents and things that they didn't want to take with them. They did make the Union take off their overcoats and give them. And then they threw down their Austrian guns and picked up their Springfield rifles. And it's a harrowing experience just to read all that, but it crossed my mind that perhaps Christian Beck left his ring and maybe some other belongings in the tent, and then they did eventually get to come back there, but the tents were gone, and if you drop your ring in the yard, it's hard to find it when you know where it's at. But I can
absolutely. This is great.
But anyway, then the trauma of the battle, the trauma of surrendering, the trauma of being a prisoner of war, and then of coming back, and if that was his ring, he looked for it. He did. And then the trauma of that, and then the aftermath of the war, where they were trying to lay blame and everything. You'll get an indication of that in the video this next Tuesday. But that's just another aspect of this whole thing surrounding the battle there at Hartsville. And I find it very interesting. And by the way, guys, I'll remind you of something else. This site has been pounded for 30-something years, maybe even longer than that. And, these are the things that we're finding are things that VLF machines have not found. Of course, me and Jeff are probably the first two to run a GPX on the Hartsville site. And Mind Lab's not sponsoring us or anything, but I'm going to tell you something. Those machines will find things that nothing else has found, and we're proving that right now.
Oh, I'd like to get one of those, but that'll be a while.
Yeah, I know. But they are worth it. And, you know, you can't hunt them everywhere. Civil War sites is about the only place that I will hunt mine. I've got a few colonial sites that I can hunt, but if you're in a bunch of nails and iron, it's as useless of a machine as there is, you know. But I tell you,
I love that story.
Do what?
All that information you have on that battle and that how they were taken prisoner and how they wanted to go back and get their personal items from the tent. All that's just, man, that just makes that video on that ring so much more amazing.
Well, you know, I make it a point to keep my history clips at 2.5 to 3 minutes because you don't want to overwhelm anyone. But there's only so much information that you can include, and you try, obviously, to have the most valuable information in there. And some of it I came across, you know, post-video. Just ran across some of that today. But if anybody's interested, I've got another history clip about an officer's shoulder bar that we found at the Gallatin camp. That's in episode 143 of Diggin with 7 in Tennessee Jeff. And that is one of my favorite history clips that I ever did because we actually put a name with a shoulder bar. And it took the official records and things like that and a diary and some other stuff for us to be able to do that. So, you know, if you like that kind of stuff, we'll go watch that episode as well.
That's what I'll be doing after the show.
Well, you'll enjoy it. That's the construction site. A lot of good stuff found at it. But that's probably my as far as a personal find that I can put a name with that is that old. That's the only one, and it was in my book one of my greater finds. It's a little bitty thing. I was lucky to get it, but it was a great find. Chris, I certainly do appreciate you coming on here tonight. And Barb, I wish that we'll get our, maybe you just, why don't you email me your phone number to digginwith7@gmail.com. I'll call you on my Skype, and the next time we're on, I can just click that, and I can call you and get you on the show. I want you to be able to come on, but do that. Just send it to me to digginwith7@gmail.com, and then I'll have you in my Skype. And anybody else that you know wants to talk here with us and everything on a regular basis, just send me your number and let me put it in the system here, and then I can just plug you in anytime that you want to. Well, what started out as kind of flying by the seat of my pants, Chris kind of came in and bailed me out on that, and so I certainly do appreciate it, Chris. Looking forward one of these days to getting over there and hunting with you and with Jeff Ford and Missouri Mac, and you guys have got an open invitation to come and hunt with us anytime that you want to.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you.
Well, thank you for being with us here tonight. And thank you to all of you on the chat. And Chris, I've got you on mute right now, but if you'll hang on to the line as soon as I close the show out, I'll talk to you for just a minute. Appreciate everybody that is in the chat. I know that I probably didn't mention everybody. Didn't see, well, Tim Henderson came in. Tim, I got your gift, the vest, got it open, and thank you so much for that. I'll shoot a little piece of video and include it in something. You didn't have to do that, brother, but I certainly do appreciate it. And appreciate everybody else that's in the chat there tonight. If you don't mind, if you'll hit the like button, we would appreciate that. Catch us on our videos on YouTube. They come out every Tuesday. We will be here at 6 o'clock next Thursday night, where we have Jason, the Quarter Hoarder, will be our guest next week. And hope that you'll join us for that. And again, I want to mention these other Spreaker channels for you to go to if you like talking about metal detecting. They are Beyond Sight and Sound, Hardcore Metal Detecting, All Metal Mode, History Seekers, and American Digger Relic Roundup. I know that you will enjoy all of those, as we do. And so here from Southern Kentucky, we're going to go ahead and close things out. And you guys have a good night and go out there and dig some history. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us each Thursday night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 7 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker. Take a moment and hit the like button and be sure that you follow us on Spreaker so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Diggin with 7 or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our Relics Radio Facebook page. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to digginwith7@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And we hope that you'll join us next Thursday night. And until then, get out there and dig some history.